What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brute Daniels, and welcome to an episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the independence community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game, I want to talk to you. So we got ourselves another creator coming from the West Coast. He is the owner of the comic shop Howdy Ho Comics over there in Santa Clara. He is also the creator of Collectors and has a Kickstarter for Collector's Splendor coming up. Give it up, everybody, for Eddie DeAngelini.
What an intro. Thank you so much. I'll just make one quick correction. Santa Monica, not Santa Clarita.
Santa Monica. Thank you so much. Thank you. So those in Santa Monica, y'all know what the deal is. All right, cool beans. But Eddie, thank you so much for making the time to come on the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
Good. So, this is our first time actually meeting face to face. I'm so happy to just meet you. I've been taking a look at your work, and I am impressed thus far by looking at some of the stuff that you're working on. And I wish I lived on the West Coast. I would come out to your shop for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So before we get into in-depth and all the cool stuff that you're working on, let's just get into who you are. Who is Eddie DeAngelini? How do we get from there to here?
Oh, goodness. Born in Chicago, Illinois, grew up out here on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Got into comic books at a very young age, back in grade school. Loved them ever since. Took a brief hiatus around high school, early mid-20s. I got interested in other things, motorcycles, cars, blah, blah, blah. But eventually came right on back to comics. My first love became my lifelong love. And from there, I started working for a local shop out here, running their online presence, running their eBay store, and then eventually co-partnered to buy my own comic shop. And this was back in 2014. So I'm actually co-owner. I own the shop with two other partners.
Oh, cool.
And my wife and I are actually the ones that pretty much run the day-to-day of the shop. So wow. She kind of jumped in and got involved too.
That's how it always works.
Yeah. And then before we even bought the shop, I had already started writing and drawing my own comic strip, which is kind of loosely based on my wife and I, and my comic book collecting and all the nerdy stuff that she puts up with living with me. So I looked for the humor in a comic book geek being married to a normal person.
And the normies.
Yes, and where the two kind of collide with each other and where the humor comes out of that. So I started doing that back in 2012 as a weekly webcomic, and I've continued to do it to this point. It's been going on for over 8 years, and in that time period, I've published 5 print collections of my comic strip.
Wow. And
currently have the Kickstarter for the 6th one up right now.
That is dope. So you were from Chicago originally.
Born there. I moved out here. My family moved out here when I was very young.
Okay.
So I was only a couple of years old.
Okay.
But I still have family there. I've gone back, several times to visit them. So, but I consider myself more of a West Coast person.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because that's pretty dope. Having that type.
I go back
to
Chicago for the pizza because LA has no good pizza.
And that's what everyone keeps telling me. Everybody keeps telling me, like, all my LA friends, they're like, "Hey, Dre, if you come out here, there ain't no pizza." I'm like, I'm not a big pizza eater, but if I'm going to eat it, I want some good pizza. But everybody tells me it's no good. So I've been to New York. I've stayed on the East Coast for the most part, and like everybody has their own different style. Like I like Chicago deep dish. Pizza. It is it's pretty dope. I shouldn't be eating that much bread, but nonetheless, it's still pretty darn good.
Well, the first time I went back with my wife, and we did a Chicago pizza tour where you literally go to like a bunch of different well-known and acclaimed pizza places, not just deep dish, but thin crust as well. And after having eaten pizza here in Los Angeles for so long, you notice the difference right away. Whatever it is, people say it's the fresh cheese from Wisconsin. Other people say it's the water from the different lakes up there. But whatever it is, the taste and everything is so completely different from over here. I mean, I found pockets here in Los Angeles of what I consider good pizza, but it's good pizza for LA. It just does not compare. And the eternal struggle is always, which is better? Is it Chicago pizza or New York pizza?
Yeah.
And I've tried both.
Yeah.
And I've got to fall on the side of Chicago pizza.
Oh, I mean, see, it's tough for me because one, I don't have a dog in the fight. So it's like I like Chicago deep dish because of, like you said, the flavoring. The flavoring is very unique, and I think you're onto something with all the different elements that's coming together. But I think New York style pizza, like it's thinner, but at the same time, I think it's the sauce. I think it's the sauce that kind of does it for me. So, yeah. I mean, granted, I'm no connoisseur, but ooh, that's close. That's neck and neck. Ooh, that's close.
Yeah, each have their own little unique things that make it special. Whereas LA pizza has nothing.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Nothing that makes it special.
Yeah, I hear that all too often. So I'm sorry to hear that you guys stick with that. Kind of
we do Mexican food better though.
I'll give you that. True. But that's dope, man. So you're out in West Coast.
So this has become a food podcast at this point.
At some point, it's gonna end up transforming. I'll be like, yo. Forget the comics. We're talking pizza all day.
And share some recipes.
So
right, well, back to comics.
Yeah. So you're raised out in the West Coast. So, what made you want to get into owning the shop, like the shop owning business? Because they start off as, like, from my understanding, and some of the collectors, they start off as collectors before they become comic shop owners. So how did you end up owning the shop?
Well, I think in that particular instance that you're naming, it's usually people who start off as collectors and then start their own shop. We didn't start this shop from scratch. We bought a shop that was already in existence. And it's actually the oldest shop still in business in Southern California. And it's one of the oldest shops in the entire country. Started back in 1977 by two brothers, Bob and Mark Hennessy. And they sold it later on. We bought the shop from the second owner. And so it's been in existence all that time. So we kind of came into a situation that was already established. And the answer I give is very simple. At the time, I was working for somebody, my partner, who we now partnered in owning Heidi Ho. I was working for his shop, like I said, running his eBay store, running his online presence. And at that time, he came to me with the opportunity if I wanted to go in to buy the shop. And it was very simple. It's like, well, I could keep on doing what I'm doing to make money for somebody else, or I can continue to do it for myself and make, granted a percentage, make that money for myself instead of for someone else. So it was a very simple decision.
Okay. Yeah. Easy.
And I went in not really knowing a whole lot about how the comic industry works. And so I got a very quick lesson on all of that, how retailing works, how the distribution end works, how the publishing side works. I mean, you have to really know all of it, as opposed to any other retail business. All you need to know is how to run your retail business, because the product just shows up and you don't need to worry about any of that. But with comics, you need to know how the distribution end is working, because that directly affects you. And same thing with the publishing. You need to know how that works, because 2 times removed, that directly affects you as well. So you really have to learn every inch of the comic industry in order to be able to run a successful shop.
That is tremendous. You're the first person I've spoken to that had that kind of that part of the journey. I have never heard it that way, as far as the generational, more or less, ownership of an established comic shop. So has it always been Heidi Ho Comics? It's always been that way?
Yes. The brothers that originally started, that was the name that they gave it, and it just continued on. And yes, it did come from the Cab Calloway song.
Okay. That was my next question. You beat me to my punch. You beat me to my bit, Eddie.
Yes.
You beat me to my bit. But okay, cool. But that's what's up. That's a heck of a thing. So let's talk a little bit about Heidi Ho. I just like saying that. I just like saying that. I can say that all day. So what kind of not really projects as it were, but like are you because of COVID and everything, there was a lot of like even myself as a creator, I had a lot of events lined up and a lot of different shops. I was gonna do pretty much a Washington D.C. tour of and pretty much for every comic shop I was gonna have an event there. But now that COVID's kind of waning, here, well, I don't know how the West Coast is actually working it, but they got different regulations and things. But
we're actually doing really well over here. Okay. Not to interrupt you, but
okay.
The Santa Monica area, well over, I think it's something like 86 or 87% of the city is vaccinated.
Okay.
We were pretty bad off last year, but now in California, especially Southern California, LA area, we have one of, I think, actually the lowest infection rate in the entire country. So we're doing all right.
Okay, cool beans. Good. That saves me some brain power. Very good. Excellent. So how are you bouncing back from dealing with the COVID year? Like, are you doing events again? Are you doing like event signings? Like how are you drubbing things back up over there?
We're kind of getting back into it slowly. We're not going huge. Like we just had a creator signing last night. We had Tony Fleeks, who does Stray Dogs at the shop, who was signing and sketching. So that went really well. And we are just trying to get back into it slowly. We were pretty badly affected during 20 and 20. We had here in California, we had 2 months where we had to lock down completely.
Yeah.
So we were completely closed, although my wife and I were still going in almost daily and manning the phones and calling all our pull customers and basically saying, hey, we got your books for the week. So we can mail it out to you. We can take your payment over the phone. So we were trying to keep anything and everything going because for a period of time, our books from our distributors were still coming in, even though we were closed.
Oh, wow.
So we were trying to get them checked in and get them to the customers, even though we were closed. And so we handled the lockdown that way. And then immediately after the lockdown ended and we were able to open, it was literally just a matter of days when the George Floyd protests hit and we were looted.
Man.
Yeah. If you watched or saw anything on the news about the looting that was happening after the protests in Santa Monica, you would see our shop on the news.
Oh my God.
The big store that they were showing on the news repeatedly, if you saw any of it, was that Vans store that was getting looted.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
We're just a couple stores down from that Vans store.
No.
So that was right on our block.
Oh, snap. Yeah. True?
And you couldn't see it too well on the news because there's a whole bunch of trees in front of the shop. So when the helicopter would go by, it would get blocked off. But there's nothing blocking the Vans store, so they were really showing a lot of that. So yes, we were hit. People broke in. They I don't know how familiar you are with Magic the Gathering, but a new set had just come out, and we had all of the booster boxes and all our inventory from that set up on display by the window, and they took all of it. It was like a $5,000 order, and they took every single bit of it. And they broke some things. They actually went upstairs into my office and stole our safe, but the joke is on them because we had just been open a couple of days and there was literally no money in there. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, but I've been interviewed about this numerous times, and all I can say is we always were and always have been in support of the people who were protesting, in support of George Floyd. In fact, we even put boards up the day after, in case there was anything else going on, with messages to that effect all over the place. And there were people, they were like very right-wing people that were giving us flack about it, and I don't understand why. But I've said over and over that first off, the people that were there protesting were not the people that were there looting. So all the people that were trying to equate the BLM protests with the violence and the fires and the looting, that's not the case. It was literally two separate sets of people. There were people that were sincerely protesting, and there were people that showed up just to be opportunists.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and I tell people all the time that if our shop being looted could play a small part in making the world a better place, then so be it. I'm absolutely 100% fine with it.
Lay down on that grenade, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, one day things, you know, get a break-in, looting, all that stuff that's stolen or broken can be replaced or fixed. That's why we have insurance. It's taken care of. It's not a big deal, you know? Same. You just go on, you get over it.
Yeah.
And you fix everything and you move on.
Wow, that is fascinating. Wow. Like, literally, you're the only person I've actually spoken with that actually had a shop affected by those looters. I mean, that's intense, man.
I've gotten in so many fights online on Facebook with people who are trying to tell me what happened at the riots and the protests and the damage that was done. And I said, yeah, well, let me tell you a little something, because I got some firsthand knowledge on this. And that usually shuts them up.
Yeah, that's called firsthand accounts. Sit down and take notes.
Yeah, because I had people telling me all the time, well, why are you supporting these protesters? Well, because I believe in the message they were protesting for, and they were not the ones that broke into my shop.
Yeah.
So
that'll do it.
Yeah.
That will do it. Wow, that's crazy. Man, man.
For all the sympathy that people try to give us, though, about us, our shop having been broken into and looted, I tell them, you know what? That was just one day. It's easy to come back and recover from one day. It was the pandemic that was the big problem for our shop, because it was day after day after day of us not being able to do events, of people not coming around. During the summer months, for about 4 or 5 months, Santa Monica area is very dependent on tourists. And we would get a lot of tourists from all over the world that would come to our shop and buy stuff because they can't get it from their own country.
Yeah.
And they would spend hundreds, in some cases, even thousands of dollars. And there was no tourist season whatsoever in 2020. And there wasn't one this year. And that is way more detrimental to us than one day being looted. So, and then plus, we had a lot of magic and gaming events for Magic the Gathering.
That was going to be my next question. Eddie, you're jumping all over my shark here.
I'm used to it. I've explained this a million times over. So we have a very large magic community at our shop, and we would have magic gaming going on almost every night of the week. And when COVID hit, all of that was wiped out. And that was literally half of our monthly income was the gaming. So you take that away, and then take away what's left is the comic part of the shop. And then you only have a small percentage of the regulars coming in to buy their comics. So you're cutting down that monthly profit. You're making even more. And before you know it, way more money is going out than is what is coming in. And unfortunately, a lot of the landlords over there, property owners, were not very sympathetic to the businesses. And basically, when the lockdown was over, they thought, okay, well, everything's back to normal, so you need to pay your rent, full rent again. And we would have to tell them, whoa, you know, we're doing literally like at best a quarter of our normal business every month. There's no way we can do that. So that's what affected us the most. And eventually, we had a really nice shop close to, if you're familiar with the Santa Monica area, nice shop by the 3rd Street Promenade, which is like the big outdoor shopping area with tons of foot traffic. But it's expensive, and we just could not afford it anymore. So we ended up moving a few blocks away from that area, still in Santa Monica, not too far, to a slightly smaller shop, but a much more manageable monthly rent. And we took that step basically to be able to go forward and survive with what became our new normal and whatever's going to happen in the next year or so. So we're good now.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's a heck of a journey, my friend. Wow.
Very much so. Yeah. The last year and a half, 2 years has been a complete upheaval of everything that was before.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah.
Good gravy. Woo. But I'm glad that you, despite all those challenges and despite all the gravy that's being poured all over them mashed potatoes, like, you found a way to bounce back, you found a way to build better, and that you're on the up and up. So that brings me great joy to see that you're doing your thing, that you're back building where you were. One question I had is because I have a local comic shop that I've been going to for 30 years, and it's called Alliance Comics. Is over here in DC. One thing I've always asked, because I'm always curious, every shop owner always asks the same thing. When you have those events like your Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, whatever tournament you're holding, how outside of selling the cards, obviously you make money from there, how else are you pulling a profit? Is it an entry fee that you're doing in order to make a profit from there, like for spectators? Like how is that you're pulling cash from that one?
Yeah, it's the entry fee for the different gaming events that we do for Magic. We have the different formats. I don't know how familiar you are with Magic, but there's different playing formats, and we'll have each format, each given night. And yeah, there's an entry fee for most of it, but it's nominal. We really make money by the people that are there for hours on end playing, that suddenly, they get up, they look at the single cards in the case, or if a new set is out, they want it. So while they're there, they're constantly buying.
Makes sense. I like that. That.
And every 3 months when a new Magic the Gathering set comes out, we have all our regulars just throwing money at us to do pre-orders. So when it comes in, they're secured for their however many booster boxes they want. And what's really nice is a lot of the regulars are gaming Magic the Gathering regulars. They're pretty well off. Okay. A lot of them are in their 20s, maybe early 30s. They have good professional jobs, so they have money. So when a new set comes out, they'll buy like 3 or 4 full booster boxes. So we do really well.
Okay. Because I was just a bit curious, because everybody has a little different type of setup, a different little format of how they do for their tournaments and things like that. But I was curious on how you did it, and I think your formula's dope. I like that. That is really cool. Yeah,
well, all of that was established when we bought the shop. We didn't build up this Magic community. The employees that we inherited, a couple of them were just really big Magic the Gathering fanatics, and it was just their baby to make this giant community for the shop, because it was really encompassed all the gamers in the area, and a lot of them being their personal close friends. So it ended up being like just a big place for everybody who's friendly with each other to come and play and hang out and buy their stuff. So I was lucky that we inherited some employees at a time who had already built up this community for us. So that was really nice.
That is dope, man. I mean, you see, like, I gush when it comes to stuff like that, because I love the comics and nerddom communities, as it were. It's like because I don't think any other group has more passion or more love for their craft than nerddom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like you were talking about, like that. This is like the folks that you inherited. This was their love. This was their passion. This is the thing that it was their brainchild. And they're like, oh no, we gotta have this type of thing. We gotta have these tournaments here. We gotta have, because you want to be in that environment. And that's the kind of stuff that I love to see. I love nerds doing nerd stuff. That is my joint. I love it. It's great, and that's why, like, I always have been a strong advocate until the end of time. Support your let me look at the camera. Support your local comic shops. Lord Jesus, yes, support your local comic shop, because there's not many places that you can have that type of gathering of Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all them other places, and then also get your comics that you want, your new issues, your back orders, your all this. It only happens under that roof. You don't get that at Books A Million and well, is Barnes and Noble still in business? Whoever is still out there.
I think they are. Borders is gone.
Borders is gone. Yeah. Whoever's still standing, you're not gonna get that type of you're not going to get that kind of interaction. You're not going to get that kind of vibe of all these like-minded people getting together and doing stuff like that.
Right. And I have a lot of customers that will come in and say, well, I could get this book, or I could buy these, you know, the new cards at Target, or I can get this book on Amazon, but I'd rather come to you and support you. So that I greatly appreciate. And I think we live in an era where for shops like mine, it's much easier and quicker for someone to just go on Amazon and buy that trade paperback or buy whatever and even get it cheaper. And my wife and I have pounded this into our staff. People come to us not just for the product, but for the experience.
Yes.
When they come to our shop, like if they're, you know, they're a fan of Batman and they want to read something good of Batman. Well, they can go on Amazon and look at a bunch of stuff, but they don't know really what to buy. Exactly. They walk into my shop, they're going to say, well, I like Batman, but I mean, what's good? And I've trained my staff that even when someone asks that, even before they ask that, you engage with the customer and give them some recommendations. Say, well, you know what, if you like such and such, you should really check this out, you know, or, hey, you watch The Walking Dead. Oh, you should, you know, try the comic. The comic is actually much better than the series, and I think you really enjoy it. And I've even had people around The Walking Dead, you know, people say, well, I don't read comics. I just like the show. I would tell them, you know what? I'm going to give you a copy of the first trade paperback. You can have it. And if you like it, come back tomorrow. You can pay me for it. And I guarantee you want to pick up the next couple ones and keep on reading. And almost every single time I've done that, they've all come back and said, oh my God, you're right. I got to know what happens. I got to buy the next one. Here, go ahead and ring me up for the first one too. So it's a matter of getting people excited about the product and showing them what they'll like. So we've really pound that into our employees. That's how we should engage with the customers.
You are preaching to the choir, my friend. I think we might be blood brothers somewhere. We might have to check our birth certificates because it's funny. I was just explaining this to my wife maybe a couple days ago. I was just explaining this to her because I go to my comic shop all the time and we have a good time and everything. And then she asked me the same thing. It's like, oh, well, like, can't you order them online or whatever case may be? Like, isn't it the same? I said, baby, it's not the same. Because she equated, which of course, in her ignorance, she equated comic shops with like Forever 21 or McDonald's or Burger King. She equated to a retail chain. Right. But once I explained to her, I said, these are individuals that run these have expertise on what stories are good, what type of things you can curtail to your customer. I said, you got to think of comic shops as a bridal shop. I said, think of it as a bridal shop. Every dress ain't going to work for every girl. The color, the shape, the size, the texture, whatever. You got to match that dress for that bride. And she was like, oh, snap. I get it. I was like, yes, I get it. And now I'm starting to convert her a little bit into, cause I'll get her into the shows, and then I'll pick up back issues. I said, hey, baby, remember the show we watched? This is the back issue that this joint was based off of. She's like, oh, I remember that in that. And he's like, oh, I get it. And I said, that's why you have the shops. Because you can connect the dots that otherwise would not be there. It's
right. And the difference between a comic shop and any other retail shop, like, I don't know, let's say like a cell phone store or whatever, sure. You're going into that store, you're buying what you need, you're leaving, and you're probably not ever coming back. You're done. Your transaction is done. Yep. When you go into a comic shop, it is an ongoing experience. You know, my job, when someone comes into the shop, my job is basically to get them hooked so they keep coming back and they become a regular customer. Exactly. And before you know it, they're coming in every week to get the new issues because they got to know what happens, or I'm collecting and I got to get these new ones. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a one-on-one relationship. And you don't get that with any other retail store.
Nope. No, you do not. It is a very unique beast. And that's why we love it so much. Man, Eddie, we vibing. Golly, you're great. Man, I mean, seriously, wow, that's dope. I mean, man, just had this conversation. It's unbelievable.
When it comes to running a shop, or we'll get to it, creating my own comics, I can just talk about this stuff all day, all day.
I agree 110%. But I'm so glad you mentioned it because I was just about to segue. Let's talk about what you got pumping out. The collectors, numbers 1 through 5, and now you're currently running Kickstarter for number 6. But before we talk about the Kickstarter, tell me about this series that you created, comic strip style.
It's called Collectors. It's all loosely based on my own life and my own marriage. The main characters in it are Eddie and Kristen being my wife. But it's not autobiographical. Okay. It's done in a kind of a Sunday style, newspaper humor style. With
so it's satirical, kind of.
Oh, yeah. I tell people, some of the stuff, they're like one and done gags, each comic strip. So it comes out as a weekly web comic, and I started back in 2012, and it's still coming out on the web. And you can always see the newest ones on my website at collectorscomic.com. And it's just very loosely based on just the pop culture phenomenon of comic books and what it's like being a comic geek married to someone who is 100% not a comic geek, and where the two worlds kind of collide and where the humor is and all of that.
Wow. And what I like about that concept is that so many people in our world can relate to that. It's
not in our world can relate to it too. Like when I've done conventions with my books, there's been a couple times where I've been next to a vendor who's got comics for sale, and they've got like the boxes on the table, and the husband will be going through very intently, looking at everything, looking for things, looking for stuff on his list, while his wife is just standing there looking bored. And I'll tell her, hey, you know what? Check out my comic. I think right now you can probably relate to it. And so there's been plenty of times where that's happened, and I've given it to the wife, or even if it's in reverse where it's, the woman who's the nerd and the husband who's not, but I give it to the person just standing there looking bored, and they start reading it and they start laughing, and then they start hitting their significant other going, oh my God, look at this. This is us. So I think I just inadvertently, by just making fun of my own experience, kind of just tapped into other people's as well.
Lightning in the bottle, my friend. Lightning in the bottle. And I like that concept. It's refreshing, honestly. Honestly, the concept is very refreshing. And looking at the art style that you have there. Before I even get there, did you do the art as well, or did you?
Oh, I do everything.
The whole shebang.
Write, draw, letter, color, self-publish, everything. I'm literally a one-man show.
Dope. You are a man of skills. Me, I write, direct, produce. I'm not drawing nothing. You'll have nothing but stick figures and dudes with smiley faces.
Well, incidentally, I mean, I thought the same way too when I started it. And I thought, well, I got this idea because I originally wrote the whole idea as a film script.
Oh, okay.
And thought, well, this kind of stuff takes forever to ever see the light of day. I want to get an immediate response from what I'm doing. So I decided I'm going to do it as a comic strip and put it on the web. And at that point, I wasn't an artist. But I thought, well, I got to hire somebody to do it. I'll write the gags and I'll write the strips and someone can illustrate it. But I never really actively tried to find somebody. And I got to the point where I said, well, I used to draw when I was younger. I'll just give it a shot. And I did. And those first few that I did, like in that first year, are kind of crude. If you look at the comic strips in book number 1, as opposed to what I'm doing now, I liken it to The Simpsons, where you look at those early episodes and they look all weird and wavy and not quite right. Oof. And then you look at them now and they're much more slick and polished. So I just, you do anything long enough, day after day, you can't help but get good at it.
That's fair.
And I got good enough. I'm not going to be illustrating the next issue of Amazing Spider-Man or anything like that, but I got good enough to be able to do my comic strip competently.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm a sucker for cartoonish art. I am. When I saw collectors and I saw the strips that you were posting, I was like, okay, if it feels fun and warm and it's not taking itself seriously, I'm invested. I as simple as that. I'm like, hey, somebody's trying to have fun. I want in on fun. So I was immediately hooked on that, and I think that's really cool. I love that. Despite
that's high praise, because that's really what I was trying to go for with the look and the feel of it. I'm not going to be Alex Ross or anything like that. I'm not going to draw super realism. I'm going to draw just fun, cool comic strip stuff.
Yeah.
I very much consider myself not a comic book artist. I consider myself a cartoonist.
Yes. Yes. And
yeah, and some people think that's derogatory in a way, because it's better to be a comic book artist than a cartoonist. No, I wear that with a badge of honor. I am a cartoonist, and I love being called a cartoonist.
Yeah, and looking at it, you definitely are. I really like it. Like I remember growing up, getting the Sunday papers, and like for those that watch this that are older. We used to get newspapers on Sunday that had the comic strips in them, and the newspapers
for free.
Yeah, free. And I used to read what was that, Dilbert, and the original Boondocks one, and all the Garfield. So like I used to look forward to that type of style of comic strip every Sunday when I would go and snatch the paper before my old man got to it, and I'm like quick before he wakes up, quick. And that style that you're doing with your comic, it warms my soul, because it bites me with the nostalgia bug. So I'm really liking it. I'm really.
If I can bite people with that nostalgia bug, great. But also, if I can continue to create my comic strip at a certain level that people who didn't grow up with those newspaper comic strips because they're younger can still appreciate it, because they look at it and just equate it with just being fun and funny, regardless of what it is kind of growing from, the old newspaper comic strips. So if they can appreciate it, not having grown up with that, then you know what, that's great. That's kind of my goal, is to have a whole new audience for it as well. But given that it is about a marriage, it kind of tends to skew towards people who might be a little bit older. I'm not going to be getting the teens or the tweens into it. But I do have people that are fans that are in their 20s, even early 20s, because, they literally just got married. And the wife just found out that, oh my God, I got to live with all these long boxes everywhere. What's going on? I didn't sign up for this. So I kind of got a wide range, I think, age-wise of people who read it. But it really is a bit of a niche fan base, because it really does appeal to people who are in a serious relationship or are married.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully there are a lot of people like that out there. So,
yeah. But that's really, really fantastic. I really love what you're doing. So briefly, let's talk about, you got the Kickstarter for number 6 out now. So yeah. So how long is that running? What do we got cooking with that Kickstarter?
Well, this is the 4th Kickstarter that I've done. I did 3 others for my print ones. A couple of them, which one? I forget. One of them I just outright paid for the print run. And so the 6th one is up now. And I just do them for the standard 30 days, 31 days.
Oh, okay.
I don't go longer than that, because it's just drawing it out, really. And doing it shorter than that, I don't think gives her really a chance to get enough coverage. I think the default 30 days is perfect. So it started, as of this recording, started 2 weeks ago. So it ends on November 11th.
Okay.
And I came out of the gate really good. But, like most Kickstarters, you start off great, and then you dip into that valley in the halfway point, and then you eventually come back out of it towards the end. So I'm down in that valley right now. It's just unavoidable.
Yep.
So I'm hanging in there down in the valley at about 89% funded.
All right. That's
So
not bad.
I'm pretty much almost already there. I was hoping to have already gotten there by that point, but just a little bit away. And I keep just plugging at it and pushing it. And eventually I'll just go ahead and get to it, I'm sure, before it ends. So I'm not worried about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt.
I tell you,
No
you
doubt.
know what was really good when I first did my first Kickstarter for the first book? That was in 2013. That was before Facebook changed their algorithms. And you could actually reach all of the people that liked your fan page, as opposed to now where you only reach a small percentage of them.
Yeah.
But back then you could reach them, all of them. And I tell you, man, and I already had about a year's worth of a fan base built up. So that first one, being able to reach everybody with no restrictions, I was funded in like 3 or 4 days. That was it.
I missed
That's
that
all
old
it took.
algorithm.
Miss it. I definitely believe that we are, unfortunately, as smaller creators, indie creators, we're in kind of a post social media phase where we're kind of waning out of it. And then that next big thing that's going to take over hasn't quite yet appeared. But at some point it's going to, because for us indie creators to try to survive with just social media to promote our work, it's just not enough.
Yeah, that's true.
You feel my pain, don't you?
Yo, trust me. I felt my hairs graying just a tad. Thank God for the do-rag. I guess I know exactly
that's
what
why a lot of creators, myself included, are really trying to move a lot of my people, my fans, over to email. And I'm sending, I've got about close to 6,000 people on my
really
email newsletter list. So I try to get people converted over there, basically tell them, hey, the algorithms are preventing you from seeing all of my strips. But if you join my email newsletter list, I send out my comic strip every week and you'll for sure get it. That's kind of one direction people are going, but there's got to be, there's something is coming. Something has got to replace what we used to have with social media in order to be able to reach people and reach a fan base.
I agree. And God knows I'll be the first fool in line. Absolutely. I can't without question. But wow, Eddie, thank you so very much for sharing your journey, your work, the stuff you're doing with your collectors, your Kickstarter. You have been an absolutely fantastic guest.
We're wrapping up. I got so much more stuff to say, but next time.
More. I know you have so much more. This would not be the last time we speak, my friend. Make no mistake about that. So everybody, check out all of Eddie's work. I will leave a link in the description section below of all his great stuff. Follow him on all his dope social media platforms. Man, this guy is good. And if you're in the Santa Monica, there it is, Santa Monica area, check out Hidey Ho Comics. It is a dope spot, especially if you're into Magic the Gathering and all those other cool event card games. Go to Eddie's spot. He would love
lots of comics too. So
and
not taking anything away from that. So I'm sure you're going to have it down below. But can I give a quick shout out to my URL where they can get to my Kickstarter?
Absolutely. Oh,
all right.
Oh, yes, sir. Oh,
super easy. If you want to go check out my Kickstarter and the 6th annual and all the rewards I have for it, just go to collectorsonkickstarter.com. Super easy.
Eddie done made the plug for me. I ain't even got to say it. That did it for me. But anyway,
I'll say it anyway.
Yeah, I'm with it. Please take my lines. I got no shame. But yeah, Eddie, once again, thank you so very much for taking the time to come up on the show and sharing all your great work.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. It was great talking to you, and I hope we can do it again.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So everybody, this has been the Indie Corner. I am Dre the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all those dope social media platforms that you'll see right under my face at TheBrute00 on Twitter and Instagram, all that stuff. Click on them, touch my face, click on them, they'll be there. And like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. Once again, this has been the Indie Corner. You all have been awesome. I am Dre the Brute Daniels, and I will catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the Spinwiz app And check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.